Vile.EXE's Kirby Right Back At Ya Season 2. Well, isn't that a mouthful? I first came across this story 7 years ago. I was a younger lad, and already discovering the wonders of fanfiction on the internet, with my trusty 3DS internet browser. And one way or another, I found this story on fanfic.net. It was interesting, but also confusing. Not that the plot was too convoluted. No, that was fine. What was astounding to me, though, was how much I liked it. Because let me tell you right now, I shouldn't have. Mostly because of the main premise. Kirby gets hit by a meteor containing some sort of magical artifact, which he ends up absorbing into himself. The result is that he comes out transformed. He's no longer a puffball, instead taking on a more humanoid shape. Now, he's smarter, stronger, and he can talk. It's like he somehow evolved. This is catastrophic. Kirby is usually defined by his cute, innocent, simple, marketable nature. You're doing a Kirby fanfic, and you're changing a pretty fundamental aspect of what Kirby is. It should turn people away. It should have turned me away. But here's the thing. Sure, the story takes a huge risk by doing this, but everything around that risk feels shockingly accurate to the source material. To me, anyway. I'm telling you, I read this story, and I can see an episode of Kirby Right Back At Ya playing out in front of me. The author, Vile, just seems to have a real knack for capturing the vibes of things. From detailed descriptions of Kirby's transformations, to familiar-sounding dialogue, to trademark snail abuse, to telling us where on the screen the star reticle opens and closes at the very start and end of the episode, this feels like a genuine Kirby Right Back At Ya story. And it's not just any story, it's one of the craziest, in a good way, things you can do with this setting. They introduce this new Kirby in the first episode, but do you know what else happens in that very same episode? Right at the start, we get Ribbon in space, being chased by what is implied to be dark matter. Her ship gets shot down and drops some kind of artifact, with both crashing down to planet Popstar in different directions. This artifact is that meteor that eventually crashes into Kirby. But already, just like that, we have elements of Kirby 64 in the race. And that's cool enough, but it's not all. Down on the surface, guess what? King Dedede has found himself a new monster delivery company. And guess who the salesman is? Magolor. Magolor in the role of the customer service guy. That just puts a smile on my face, man. And he's very much doing his own thing as well. Because when you think about it, Nightmare Enterprises was trying to destroy Kirby too. So why were they constantly screwing over Dedede with super high prices? I mean, if it was anyone less stubborn, they would have canceled their membership already. In this story, Magolor and his company, the Lorkstram Express, try what is arguably a better approach than their predecessor by being more consumer-friendly, so Dedede keeps using their services. And wouldn't you know it, Magolor plays the friendly, concerned customer service agent very well. Considering how he is in the games and what he does there, it's a pretty good use of his character. The inclusion of these game elements is generally a strong suit of the story. It's not as shy about pulling from the source material. And, even considering the story's first chapter is 10 years old, that's still a lot of stuff to work with. Potentially. I don't think we'll be seeing Dark Mind or Drossia anytime soon. Or at all, for that matter. Not that we need to. The elements I just mentioned are already more than enough for an interesting season of the show. And when you have accurate writing and fan service, well, that's a pretty good base to experiment a little. Push the status quo, even. And as mentioned, push the status quo it does. This new Kirby is, well, you may be surprised to find he's not that bad. In the show, Kirby is defined by his innocent, friendly, and carefree nature. Meanwhile, in combat, he also shows determination and even initiative at times. The main change with new Kirby is that he's stronger, smarter, and he can talk. and this has an effect on his relationship with his friends. To put it simply, it's kind of like he's gone from being the little brother of the group to being around the same age, maybe even a bit older. He's not above getting into trouble though. Like, he'll gladly help Tuff steal from Dedede's cookie stash. By choice even. That said, he's less naive and more intuitive, and while he may express great confidence in his abilities, he doesn't lose sight of his kindness or his friends. I don't think he's the most interesting protagonist, but it's not like he's passive or boring either. He can still struggle in fights, he still has things to learn. He's just different. Something like that. Bottom line, don't let this change deter you from checking out the story. You might even like it. Another thing it does is give Dedede some character development. Or rather, it expands on his existing character development. See, despite him being the most prevalent cause of trouble in Dreamland, the original show did give him a couple moments of depth with episodes like Prediction Predicament Part 2 and Depreciation Day. This fanfic leans a bit more into this idea that Dedede can be a decent guy when he feels like it. Most of the time, he's still the same jolly jerk, but you might notice a few things, like him being less dismissive of the Waddle Dees, or him deciding, hey, people have been a bit down lately, let's just throw a party to get everyone's spirits back up. Stuff like that. So yeah, taking an idea that the original run had, and expanding it a bit further, much like how a second season might do. The story also gives us more of Meta Knight. Now, in the anime, Meta Knight's a pretty fine character all around. He's a war veteran, a mentor figure, wise, still plenty capable in battle, and of course, Spanish! He'll sometimes lend an assist, but he usually stays in the background, letting Kirby do most of the work. Which makes sense. Kirby has to be able to hold his own. Of course, this means we don't get to see him fight that often. Here, that changes a bit. Meta Knight definitely gets more spotlight in terms of both action and character. Let's say we're seeing more layers of this guy. He gets challenged and is forced to overcome these challenges. How, exactly? Well, I'm gonna leave that up to you to find out. And I think that essentially wraps up my case. In conclusion, this story brings in big change, but also familiarity and great excitement. The concept is crazy, but the execution is very compelling. Not every fanfic is going to be good, but some might turn out better than you think. And that's why you should read Kirby Right Back At Ya, Season 2. This is GK, logging out. Except not really, because I actually have a few things to say still. This story was written by Vile.EXE, also known as Taylor Girl. Gorel? Gorel. Whatever. They've written exactly this one Kirby story, and a bunch of other stuff. Especially Yu-Gi-Oh! Stories. So, maybe check those out. You can find them on fanfic.net. Also, a thank you to KirbyFan88, who I commissioned to draw these two wonderful portraits of evolved Kirby from this story. These are the best looking, and probably some of the only depictions of this character in existence, at least at the time of recording. So that's very neat. They have a YouTube, Ko-fi, Blue Sky, Twitter, all those things. You can find links to both of these creators' social medias and other things down in the description. As for me, well, you'll hear me next time. Ciao.